A lot of people I think are chasing after something that they're not really sure why they're chasing it. Or like they have been kind of conditioned to want that particular thing, but they haven't really questioned what their values are. Why do you value the thing that you want so bad? I had to really assess that, and I had to ask myself that many times, and to this day, I'm still asking myself about certain things. Like I got that record "Now We Got Money" with Mick, and that whole thing is like a commentary on like what are the things that you value, like what are they actually worth.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt, and today we got a very special guest in the building. Man, he's Chicago Reader's Hip Hop Artist of the Year. He's a rapper, producer, TV show host, and I wouldn't say most importantly, but another very important factor to you is the founder of Respect the Mic. Go ahead and introduce yourself, bro.
Yeah, my name is Rich Robbins. What's up, everybody? Yeah, that all of that is true. Founder of Respect the Mic. We've been about 5 years strong at this point. Founder of and creator of the Soft and Tender series. That's a little bit newer, but still just as impactful for the community work that I do, and then also musician, poet, educator.
I mean, like you said, you don't like to be boxed in, bro, and you've really created this identity for yourself that allows you to be much bigger than just an artist, or at least just a rapper, right? Because all of these are art forms. I want to start at Respect the Mic because obviously like Soft and Tender is newer and it's gonna coincide with more of what we talk about later on. But for Respect the Mic, why did you feel like it was so important for you to create a space like this for artists?
Respect the Mic really came out of this like want for me and my homies to just have a space, a secure space that we could perform at every month. That's really what the genesis of it was. Like we were recording out of Music Garage at the time, and we wanted a space that we could perform the stuff that we were making. You know what I'm saying?
Smash Studios.
That's now Smash Studio. R.I.P. Music Garage, man. But yeah, it was just like it was this need of like. There's so many places to perform around the city, but there's not really any space that we can claim ownership to. We're always kind of visitors in other people's space. And so I'm like, why not just create the space ourselves? We got the resources. I got the connections to make this happen. Shout out Melissa and Jordan who run Positive Space Studios. That's who hosts Respect the Mic. They were so on board from the jump, to listen to my pitch about, can we transform your space once a month into this performance space? People of color going to be coming through here, trying things out. And the whole gist of the space is really to have a place that you can come mess up and get celebrated for it, because we're expected to be so perfect in so many other places. We've got like that 30-second window to capture somebody's attention. And if you don't hook them, then they're gone. You know what I'm saying? And so this is the antithesis of that, right? Like you come here, be patient with yourself. The audience will be patient with you too, and encourage you to just do your best. You know what I'm saying? So that's really where that came from.
What does a pitch like that look like when you're talking to somebody that, I mean, I'm not sure what your relationship was like with them at that time, but just talking to somebody about coming into their space and opening it up to a bunch of other people.
Bro, it was the most organic conversation. It literally wasn't even like a pitch is like is doing like too much justice to it. Like I literally walked into the art gallery for the first time. My cousin took me, her friend was having an exhibit in that art gallery. And I literally walked in and was like, this would be a dope spot for an open mic. I talked to Melissa, who was there at the time, and was like, you ever thought about doing an open mic? She was like, start it next month. That was it. And I was like, okay, I got the space. That's the hardest part about this whole thing. Now I just got like the space is built. The people are going to come now, So then we kind of got in our stride of like, oh, we want this structure of like, there's no microphones and it's really intimate and we got a guest artist every month. You know what I'm saying? So all of that logistical stuff came later. She didn't even need to know the logistical stuff. She was just so like down for the community. She was like, yeah, just come do it.
Man, it really be like that, right? You just throw an idea out there. Somebody tells you, all right, do it. And it all just kind of pieces itself together, right? Like, especially for this, my bad, I always bring it back to me, but especially for something like this, right? I didn't know what mics I needed. I didn't know what lights I needed. I didn't know how to work a camera. I didn't know how to fucking edit. I didn't know anything. But my homie who helped me, get everything started up, he's like, do it. Like, let's start Wednesday. I'm like, Oh,
Yeah.
fuck. I was like, oh, shit, man. Some of the best things, some of the things that end up helping define who you are happen through happenstance almost, right?
Happenstance, and also like just action, like you just have to take action at some point. You got to stop talking about it. You just got to jump in and do it, and you got to have people around you that are just going to be like, you are overthinking. Just do the thing that you know that you can do, and sometimes you just need that push, that extra push. But I also think that there's a power in just speaking out loud what you want to do. Half the time I feel like people just want to cook up in their head and then just kind of wait for the perfect moment. The more people, I learned this from my mentor. He was so unashamed to just tell anybody like, "Hey, Rich is working on this thing. Do you have a connection to this?" And it would be like somebody random that we met on the street, when we taking a walk, and he's just asking this random person, "Do you have a connection to the music industry or the film industry, or the podcast industry?" And more likely than not, people would say no. But I was surprised at how many people would actually be like, "Oh yeah, my cousin's daughter actually works for Rolling Stones. Like we could send over her, and then you get like a quick blurb and something like that. You know what I'm saying? So tell people what you want to do. Like stop keeping everything inside. Their emotion can only happen if you speak it out loud. And that's the whole idea of manifesting and shit.
I like that because nobody ever explains manifesting. They just,
They just be-
hey, just say it and it'll happen.
Yeah.
This shit will come true one day. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Respect the Mic is pretty similar to something else that you were involved in early on to kind of just helped you get that start, right? Louder Than a Bomb, YCA, your whole
Yeah.
connection over there.
Yeah.
It was another space where, it helped artists harness their skill and then develop it.
Right.
How did you see YCA help you develop as an artist?
Man, YCA was the foundation for really everything. Like when I was in high school, I had moved to Oak Park when I was 14, right? I moved from Philly. I didn't know anybody. So I didn't grow up in the area, nothing like that. So going to high school was a very isolating feeling. And I was also grieving the loss of a family member at that time too. And so not only did I not know anybody, but I also like didn't have the energy to go out and be the most social person. I'm also just a naturally quiet person in general, So all of those things were working against me in a new place to live. When I discovered poetry and the spoken word club, my mentor, Mr. Khan, who I talked about, he introduced me to YCA. That got me involved in Louder Than a Bomb. That's where I got introduced to No Name, Mick Jenkins, Saba. That's the first time I saw Chance perform. All of that changed my life. I had always loved writing, but like I didn't know that I could do something with writing with my life. I thought I was going to take like a more traditional kind of route. Like I'm gonna do high school and then I'm gonna try my hand at college and then do something else after that. Like a traditional job. But writing just kind of like it opened up my world in a totally different way. And YCA was the home that kind of crafted that writing. And then I took that after high school, took it to college, and then kept on doing it. So
Man, I got a couple different questions, and this next one might sound like crazy a little bit.
okay,
Starting YCA, you were coming up with No Name, Saba, all of them, right?
yeah.
Okay. So seeing the way that their careers have gone, how has that continued to push you?
That's the crazy question.
I reformatted it.
I don't know. I think I've come to a point where I understand that everybody's path is very different. They have this level of success that I think a lot of us want, as upcoming musicians, right? But they also have a different calling than I do, or than the person next to me, And I think when I think about like success and things like that, like it all just kind of looks different for everybody. Happiness kind of looks different for everybody, I know touring musicians who are absolutely miserable, you know what I'm saying? Like it just wasn't like they're doing everything that we kind of like thought we wanted to do and they don't like it at all, And then I know other people that that are massively talented that are not touring musicians, but they're very happy, And so I think for me, like I've decided like I want bits and pieces of like what they do, and I want to work with all of them. I've been really fortunate to be able to work with some of them, and build like some connection and friendship with some of them, But I'm I'm so satisfied with what I can do and like what I can contribute to every room that I walk in. You know, like I kind of like equate it to anime. Like I'd be like thinking I'd be like wondering what people's power levels are and shit, you know? And like I feel like I'm finally at a point where I'm like, oh yeah, like I could the social media following, the numbers, it's all relative. You know, everybody's like a viral moment away from looking like they are the most popping person on the planet, you know? I have consistency and I think I have longevity too, you know. I think that when it's all said and done, like I'm pretty confident that, you know, people are going to be like 40, 50, 60 years old listening to Rich Robbins. Their kids are going to be listening to, you know, it's going to be in their houses, you know, like and we're already in people's houses with the TV show, you know. So those building blocks are there and like I'm just focused on like on what my path is and I love everybody else's path. What you got going on, what you got going on. At some point we'll link up, we'll work together, let everything be organic.
And something I like that you said is the fact that, you know, sometimes these people, they get everything that they wanted and realize it wasn't everything you cracked it up to be, right? There's touring musicians who are miserable.
Yeah.
And I think that's a general artist thing. That's a general people thing, right? Sometimes we strive so hard for money, we strive so hard for a relationship, we strive so hard to achieve everything we ever dreamed of, everything we thought happiness was.
Right.
And when we finally get it, we're like, oh, but what about everything we sacrificed along the way?
And it's like, and it's values too, bro. Like a lot of people I think are chasing after something that they're not really sure why they're chasing it. You know, or like they have been kind of conditioned to want that particular thing, but they haven't really questioned what their values are. You know, why do you value the thing that you want so bad? I had to really assess that, and I had to ask myself that many times, and to this day, I'm still asking myself about certain things. You know, like I got that record "Now We Got Money" with Mick, and that whole thing is like a commentary on like what are the things that you value, like what are they actually worth? You know, like we could have millions of dollars and again still be miserable. You know, and so like if my values are in check, it doesn't matter if I die and I got a penny, or if I die and I got 10 million pennies, you know, like who's happy at the end of the day, you know? Also, the capital shit is just like, you can't take that with you in the next place that we go, you know? But what you can take with you, I think, or what you leave behind is legacy, you know? And so I love the legacy that I'm building right now, and I'm not done. And I get to, like, I have the opportunity every day to add to that legacy, you know? One thing with my pops is like, he's always the type of person that's been like, if I die today, then I'm happy with what I accomplished. I used to think that was so submissive and just like weak, you know. But I like the older I get, the more I'm like, oh, I see what you mean, Dad. You know, like you are happy with your legacy right now, you know. And how many people can really say that?
And I think part of that is because as you get older, you realize that your energy doesn't need to be given to everybody. I think growing up, you know, when you're in your early 20s, teens, getting to your late 20s, you're understanding that, or you're chasing this feeling, you're chasing this validation from everybody else, right?
Yeah.
And with that validation, you feel like, well, if they like me, if they enjoy what I do, then I'm going to be happy. I'm going to feel fulfilled in everything that I do.
Yeah.
Until you get that validation and you get that fulfillment and you're like, oh, but I don't have anything tangible. I don't have anything of real substance in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm creating all of this, but really, who was it for? Was it for these people or was it for me? And if it was for me, then I can be happy. But if it was for everybody else, who cares?
That's a tricky thing, right? Like when we as creators, and I'm sure that you've had this moment, it's like it's this balance between what y'all want and what I want, you know? Like I know what I want and I know what I want to hear. And there are some things that I create that I'm like, I love this. I know that this wouldn't particularly do well in a space with a million people, you know? And so like it's that balance of like I don't think it is just like a matter of like just making, at least for me, it's not a matter of just making things for me, because I am this, what I make is a conversation with the audience. Like I need people to relate to it, because I need people to buy it.
Yeah,
You know, like,
you need people to spend the money.
yeah, and the only way they're going to spend the money is if they find themselves in it too, you know. And so I have to be conscious of that as a creator. Are there access points for other people to walk into this space that I'm creating, you know? So yeah, like I'm of the mindset of like I make things for myself. Asterisks.
I think that's just more so a thought that has been weighing heavy on me recently, right? Like I said, we've been on and off with it a little bit. Things have been consistent. I got a new video every single week. So people don't really know like what's going on behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? Which is another conversation I was having with somebody earlier. I'm like, I'm still getting something up every week. I'm still getting something up every single day. So this internal struggle and these internal battles I'm having with myself every day, it's like, it's literally that fact of social media is not real. You don't know what somebody's going through, because my whole world could be falling apart. But because I'm getting that Instagram post up, everybody thinks, oh shit, he got another one. You know what I'm saying?
Man,
We got a mill off a Trinobi clip.
Life must be good.
Ain't nobody know what's going on for real. You know what I'm
Man,
saying?
that's so real, dog. The other day, somebody was like, Rich Robbins is the happiest rapper. And I was like, okay. I just kind of like laughed at that, because I'm like, that's interesting that's how that's perceived. But like, I'm not always happy, bro. Like, you know, I have a whole song. I got a song on my last album called Bottom of the Lake. It's all about hitting rock bottom, you know? And so I think it's like, it is interesting that like, you know, some people, yeah, people will perceive this one thing about you and think that is like, that's all you are, you know? Like when I talk to people now, I think people think that like, how I say this, like people use me as like a to absorb their stories now, because they see me listening to people's stories on social media, and people will just start opening up about their relationship with their dad. You know, like that's the role that I start playing for them. And I guess that's kind of the double-edged sword of like being recognized, right? Is like people will kind of recognize you for what they need you for, or what they kind of first stumbled upon you for, without really acknowledging the rest of your humanity, you know?
You're not a person anymore. You're this thing. You're this thing, and that's all that they're ever gonna relate to you as. And that's kind of the hard part about being a public figure, right? Because, like you said, now I'm this person that has to listen to your story. But what about all the shit I'm going through for real?
Yeah, and I don't want to be in a position where somebody's, you know, telling me to open it up, and I'm just not in the headspace for that. Like when we on set, I'm in the headspace for that. I prepare for that. When I'm just out and about, and I'm just like, I got a couple drinks, I smoked a little bit, I'm not in that same headspace. You know, I don't have that same level of capacity, and so the last thing I would want to happen is somebody is like, damn, I tried to open up to Rich and he ain't that soft and tender, you know? Like, it's all fake, you know? I don't want that to happen. So I think, and this kind of goes to the idea of boxes, right? Is like, I think people, like, I really want to challenge people to like, is there a way to kind of figure out in your brains to not limit what other people are doing for the sake of like your own brain space and your own categories for people, you know? I want to challenge people to see if there's a way that we can like meet people where they're at, instead of like where we think we found them.
All right, man, we got a little deep into it.
Yeah,
But,
right.
you know, before we completely veer off from, you know, YCA, like you mentioned, you were able to work with some of these artists early on, right? When did you work with Saba?
I worked with Saba in 2015.
Why can I not find that song anywhere?
It's on Spotify. It should be.
Not Apple Music? I didn't see it on Apple. Damn, so you worked with Saba and Mick 9 years apart.
No, I worked with Mick in 2015 too. They're on the same album. They're on the same project.
Okay.
Mick, Saba, Superboy's on that album.
Mm-hmm.
But that album came out when I was in college, and so there was like not to get too deep into it, but like there was when I left for college, I went to Wisconsin, Madison, and it was like I wanted desperately to like still be connected to Chicago, you know, and so that's why I was like working with all these people. but not being in the city was a big detriment to like my own momentum within the city, you know. And so I was able to like definitely do my thing in Madison, but the ceiling for Madison is way different than the ceiling for Chicago. And so when I finally moved back in 2017, 2018, that's when it was, yeah, exactly.
They were out of here.
Yeah. And that's when I was coming here.
Again, respectfully, it's something that Fem had mentioned. He went away for school, came back. He felt like he missed the opportunity. Did you feel the same way?
At first I did, but again, there's no telling where I would be now if I stayed. There are certain experiences that I had to go through over there that I had to bring back over here, you know? So I don't regret anything. I would do it all again, you know? I would love to see in the multiverse, like where is the rich that didn't leave for college, you know? But there was just like, I was in an arts program in Madison. That's why I went there for this art scholarship program. That is what actually made me an artist. Not doing features with Chicago artists and not doing open mics at Chicago. It was being in this intensive cohort that was like physically, mentally, spiritually training us to be artists on and off stage, be activists on and off stage, be academics at the same time. You know, like that's where I learned that, oh yeah, I don't just have to fit in this box. I can be an artist, an activist, and an academic all in one body. It's up for the audience to figure out what to do with me. I'm just going to do all of that though.
So then being able to work with these artists so early on in your career, how did you see that collaboration help you, grow as an artist?
I mean, on a logistical standpoint, the songs with Mick are some of my most successful songs, or the two songs that I have with Mick are two of my more successful songs. And so there's a logistical kind of, benefit of like working with somebody who has this national acclaim or who's on that track, But I think beyond that, I think it was like this proof to myself that I am just as capable as these people that have this national platform, I went bar for bar with Saba. I went bar for bar with Mick twice. I love Mick. You know what I'm saying? Like I listen to these people's music and learn from them, and to step in the arena with them and do my thing. I'm like, yeah, like I'm built for this just like anybody else is, And so like, I think for me, it was like, well, I know that the talent is there. So I'm just going to stay ready. And when the opportunity presents itself, that's when the success is going to present itself, when I'm prepared. So when I see the opportunity, boom, we gone.
That's no easy task, right? Going bar for bar with two of Chicago's greatest rappers that were up and coming at the time. And even still to this day, they get praised for their bars, not for being a hit maker, but for being a spitter.
Yeah.
How much of your identity has become tied to being an artist?
All of it. My whole identity is being an artist. There's no way to talk about what I do without mentioning it at this point, In my workspace, they refer to me as Rich. They don't call me my government name in my workspace. Even my family at this point is like acknowledging the Rich, and like that was like, that's the hardest people that seen you grow up and be like, they wiped your butt as a kid and you taking on this moniker, like the fact that they are leaning into it too. I don't think that they're it's not really like this alias for me, the name Rich even comes from both sides of my family. The name Richard is prominent in both sides of the family. And so it was really just like a way of like this, like showing that like how do I explain this? So on my mom's side of the family, my mom's dad's name, my grandfather, his name is Richard. His son's name is Richard. They call him Richie though. When my grandfather is not home and my uncle is, they start calling him Rich, And so Rich is like this kind of leader of the family kind of title, At least that's the way that I've interpreted it in my family. And so when people refer to me as Rich, it's like, it's respect, And then on top of that, there's this whole like, challenging what being rich in hip hop kind of means. And,
That's a real ass artist answer.
Yeah, but it's also like that's just the truth of it, Like that's just, it's not like I don't compromise anything to be Rich Robbins, Like it is just who I am.
What about being a rapper? Because there's that separation between being the artist and being the rapper.
Being a rapper, I think, comes with so many different connotations. It's one reason I really respected Chance when he was coming up, and still do to this day. At some point, I don't know if it was an interview or something, he was saying that the rapper part of Chance the Rapper, was really important because he's taking rap into all these spaces that you don't normally see rap. And I think the the root of that is that we have these assumptions about rappers. We have these preconceived notions about how a rapper's supposed to move and, you know, this, that, whatever. I don't really like some of that shit I abide by. The other shit I'm just like, I'll just be doing me, bro. Like I have this talent for spitting. So like so I do that. That doesn't just mean that it comes with all the I don't know, like any negative connotation, even any positive connotation. There is no connotation that it comes with. It's just one title of many things that I do, you know. But I understand where, like, we talking about meeting people where they're at. I understand that other people, they're not as deep into the culture as I might be, or you might be, you know. So they hear rapper and they're like you know how awkward it could be to date somebody and then like meet their dad and be like, yeah, I'm a rapper. Like we know like what we know that's like a weird thing to say.
We know what
right?
they
Like,
interpret.
exactly.
What they're in.
And don't let them be
Yeah.
white. Like then it's like then it right. Like so that's where it starts getting a little limiting. I think. And even just being like I've gotten a lot more comfortable saying I'm a musician. And some people would be like, "Oh, what instrument do you play?" And I'm like, "I like vocals." Like, what do you mean? You know, but really standing firm in like I am a musician. I understand music. I've the past like year and a half been learning a lot about music theory so that it's not just the raw like, oh, I know what sounds good and what doesn't, but I understand the technicality of it too. Those things are musician things, you know. And so yeah, I'm a rapper, but under that is a musician, or above that is a musician, you know. With that is a musician, with that is a singer and songwriter and a poet, you know. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, like artists, I really rock with artists. I'm like, yeah, through and through, I'm an artist all the way. Rapper, I am a rapper. I'm not always rapping.
You're not Chance the Rapper. You're not taking.
I'm not even Rich the Rapper. Like I'm like, yeah.
So then, what was it about music that you found comfort in?
Some of my fondest moments were my dad and I were just in the crib. My mom would leave the crib for whatever reason, you know, got like something to do, and my dad would just play music. You know, he would like we would have cleaning days, or like, you know, we had like I'd have chores to do or whatever, and he would just blast some music louder than my mom would like it to be, you know, but she was gone from the crib. And so it was this really comforting thing. I think it was a bonding thing, number one, but then it was also this comfort thing too, you know. And music always gave me like this like kind of like visceral reactions to, like I would like feel. It wasn't just like oh, I like this or make me move. Like I would feel it in my gut. Like this is like a universal energy that's moving through me, you know. And when I got older, got more into writing, I kind of like, I was like, oh, actually it was around the time that I know he's not the most popular person right now, but like around the time that Drake was coming out, 2007.
Thought you were gonna say Diddy.
No, oh no. Around the time Drake was coming out, and then also like, you know, starting up YCA and L-Tab and everything, being introduced to like, first time I saw Chance perform Prom Night was a huge moment for me. That was like 2011 or something like that. And Prom Night was about to come out. Maybe it was 2000, yeah, one of those years. 10 Day was about to come out. And I remember thinking about how like, I was like, wow, Chance writes like I know I can write, but then he also has these musical elements that remind me of those cleaning days with my dad. And I was like, what? There's nothing stopping me from making that same type of feeling, you know? And so it was around that time that I was like, I'm gonna start transitioning from writing poetry to maybe like writing verses, and then writing verses became producing, and so on and so forth.
And I understand that feeling that, you know, Chance instills, because it's that type of music that we look at right now, right? 10 years later, and we're like, oh damn, those were the days.
There's something nostalgic about it. And even then, like when it was those days and we were living it, I still felt that nostalgia of like, this is bringing up like family memories, you know. And I like that feeling, and I like being able to give that feeling and create that feeling for myself. And it just so happens that the person that is listening to the music is also getting that feeling, you know, trigger for them. And so yeah, it's like, it's just this kind of like way. It's my way of being a communicator. One person recently told me, he was like, Rich, you're not even a rapper, you're a communicator, and you just choose to rap to communicate. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, bro. Like that makes a whole lot of sense, because I feel like a lot of my songs are like, I want my kids to listen to it and be like, oh, I got the blueprint of life from dad, like even if dad's not here, like for whatever reason, like I can listen to his music and like he's walking me through instructions on how to do this thing.
What do you feel like is one of the most important songs that you had created that really symbolizes that?
Bro, Soft and Tender.
Let's get into it. Let's talk about it, right?
Soft and Tender, bro. That was the first song that I bought a condo in 2021. And that was the first song that I wrote in that space. There was like minimal furniture in the space. I set up the speakers were some of the first things that I set up. And I'm writing. I didn't even know if my neighbors could hear this shit. They later left me a note the next day. They were like, "What makes you think we want to hear your music on repeat like that?" Because I just had the beat on loop, And since then they've eased up a lot after explaining to them what I do. But that was the first song that I wrote, and I think man, there was something about like talking about my father in that way in a rap song that I was like, ain't nobody else doing this. Nobody's starting this type of conversation in rap. Nobody's using rap to start conversations right now,
But why start that particular conversation?
Because that was what was on my mind.
So what was it? For the people that don't know.
The gist of the song is like this exploration of growing up with my father and the affectionate ways in which he raised me, and not blindly affectionate, not like, not shielding me from anything. My dad straight up has been like, if you got to fight, you better defend yourself. You know what I'm saying? But like, don't be the one to start the fight, but you be in a position where you can always win the fight. You know what I'm saying? And so it really is like, it was like this masculine compassion that I was like, how do I translate this into a song in a way that is like, this could just be a bop if you just listen into it, And it was one of the more easier songs for me to write because I just saw the movie, what's the movie with Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga? A Star Is Born, right? And Bradley Cooper in it is like, anybody could write a song, but not everybody has something to say. I had something to say in that moment. And I think that's why it took me like 25 minutes, 30 minutes to write the song. Cause it was like, oh, I have a message, and not even a message. I just have something moving through me that I know needs to get out. And I got the setup right here. Boom, let's get it, So that was really important. And then I think what happened after that was kind of surprising to me in a way, because like I didn't expect there to be there was no thought of a TV show, and there was definitely no thought of like, oh, my dad is going to be in the crowd when I perform this, several times a few years from now. I didn't expect those moments, and I didn't expect it to bring our families together in the way that it did, But I think when something is organic like that, like you're bound to bring people together.
So what was the reaction from your family in that case?
I guess I don't really know what their reaction was initially. Like I actually interviewed my dad before writing the song. And he told me a lot about my grandfather. And so I learned a lot about myself, learning about my grandfather. He passed when I was about 6 years old. So I didn't really get a chance to know him. But from what my dad says, we would really rock with each other, And so learning kind of about like what my dad went through with his pops, and then understanding what I've gone through with my pops, I was able to translate that into song, right? And I will say, like, there have been moments where we had the original Soft and Tender premiere at Soho. My parents came to that, and my dad straight up bawled when he saw the 3 episodes, and I think that type of that is the reaction that I actually got to see, and I think that was also him piecing together like, oh, the music and the passion, like, I see how this is moving now, like I see that you are creating something bigger than us. And, he didn't always rock with the music, you know what I'm saying? But like now it immortalizes us now.
As most parents don't, right? And that you start something artistic, you start up a passion, and not everybody gets it at first. And I think that, when we initially talked about sitting down and doing this, as I grew to understand more and more of what you do, and looking at the Soft and Tender series and listening to a couple different episodes, it reminded me a lot of kind of where I was when I started this up. When I started this up, there was just a lot of shit going on in my life. My dad was going through his own things as well. So, all right, that sounds bad. We'll break it down a little bit, right? When I first started this up, both my grandmas had passed away. So it was my mom's mom and my dad's mom. So dealing with that, this was my thing. Everybody else handles it their own way, right? And when I go back and I look back and I reflect on some of the concepts I was talking about, how my parents weren't necessarily the most understanding, or maybe the ways that they interacted with me growing up, right? My dad was very much so, when I did something good, well, why didn't you do it this way? Why didn't you do better? And when I started this up, it was a criticism that continued to follow me. I'm like, I could do better. I could do better. And I realized that, oh, this is because of this. So when we started talking and I was reviewing everything, I'm like, man, low key, that was a conversation I needed to have and I needed to go through, and an experience I needed to realize. Did I need to, go on YouTube and throw my dad under the bus and say, damn, bro, like you fucked me up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to understand what that experience was like and what their reactions were like, because I don't even know what my dad's reaction was. You know what I'm saying? Like, he sat down and watched a couple episodes. Ain't nobody ever told me, like, damn, why you talking about our family like that?
Yeah.
And I think that at 21, 22, I was so okay with exploring those ideas, and I was so okay with throwing everything out there because I was processing it.
Yep.
So now at 24, I'm like, fuck, like, was that the best way to go about it? But it was my way to go about it.
That's really interesting, man.
That's not to throw down on what you do, right? Because I think that the conversations you have are super impactful and they're super important to have. And that's why I fucked with it so hard, because I was like, this is what I was doing when I first started, but on a much bigger scale.
I definitely understand what you're saying. I don't know if there is a right or wrong in this scenario. Like you just did it. That's just it. That you found, and I actually think you found a relatively healthy way of doing it. You can think about probably a lot of people that you know that were also unpacking, but doing very different things to do it. And they're paying for it today. What I will say is, when I first started making music, it was around the time I was doing poetry. I was like in this like rap group with a couple friends, and like we didn't know what we were doing. We were just like kind of imitations of what we saw, and I was using the word bitch a lot in my music, right? And like my parents were like, they were like, who are you calling a bitch? Like, is it your mom? Is it your sister? Like, I'm like, nah. Then who? And I'm like, 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 yeah, like, and I think with it, like, at the time being a teenager, I'm just like saying and I also was throwing my parents under the bus, like I was saying things about them in songs that like they would hear it and be like, that's just not true, bro. Like, and in my head, I'm like, that's my truth though. But I have at that moment, I had a very limited understanding of the idea of like two truths, and like your truth and my truth make the truth. You know what I'm saying? And so it wasn't until I got older that I like, now it comes from a much more tasteful place, and it comes from a much more compassionate place, and just a much more like understanding of the world. Like, I see my parents as people now. They're not just my parents anymore, and we don't have that type of relationship anymore where I just need straight up discipline, or like now I need like life advice, like I respect the experience that they have, whatever, and so I think what you're probably realizing now and coming to terms with is like, what you did, I think was set you up for success today. And now you just know how to streamline it a little bit better, and you know how to deal with those thoughts healthier, and in a much easier way for you, your family to bear, but also in a way that audiences have that walking in point, right? That window of like, oh, now I see myself in this story, right? And no conversation that I have on the show, I wouldn't be willing to have with my folks, and in a lot of ways, like those conversations have helped start conversations with my folks.
So then why did you feel like it was so important to bring this conversation to an even larger level, right? Bringing it to TV?
Because I saw how needed it was. Like, I saw how eager people were to get in those seats. Like, when we asked people to be a part of the show, people are like, yes, like they've been waiting type of thing to be on the show. It is incredible how many black men are waiting for a safe platform to tell their story in a non-judgmental space, in a space that is going like you're talking to other men who have, we talked about anime and power levels and everything, like who have just as impactful of life experiences as you do, and we are just here to like just listen to each other. That's it. That's the only agenda, is just share your story and I got you. And so I know that there are other platforms out there that, Black men are talking about their vulnerability or whatever, but I think that the angle that we've taken is a very unique and a very niche thing in a way. Like, everybody's got a dad. We could do this forever, like everyone has a dad, whether they know that person or don't know. I should say everybody has a biological father, right? Now, whether you interpret that as a dad or, whatever you will call that person a father, what different story, but everybody has a biological father, so everybody has an access point into this conversation. And so learning how, I think piecing together how universal that was, I'm like, we're not going to stop here. Like, we're not going to stop at just YouTube and TV. Like, we could take this across the planet and do this, so we'll figure out a way to do that.
And in the song Soft and Tender, you say, Daddy in the kitchen, and he told me, son, listen. He said, you don't have to play the part that they wrote for you.
You don't have to play the part, yeah.
And this idea of not fitting into that box has kind of followed you your whole life, right? Because your dad's telling you, you don't have to play this role. And whatever that role may be, right? Because I'm sure it might have been a conversation revolved around something completely different than just being an artist, than being a creator, being whatever it may be, right? But that applies to everywhere that you go in life, especially now because you're so multifaceted, bro. What did that advice that was passed down to you mean to you then versus now as you continue to grow?
Telling a teenager or a kid that like you don't have to like follow social norms is almost like a moot point, but you still have to hear it as a kid, But I think it was just like so one thing is like those specific words were never really spoken from him, right? It wasn't like you don't have to,
man, bro.
But it was,
you should have just let them think it,
no,
bro.
But it's that was what he raised me with, though, right? That was the moral compass that he raised me with, and the life skill that he raised me with is like, there's always an option, son. Like, I know that he has said that before. I always have some type of option. I always have a choice, and so. And nobody can make that choice for me, and so I think as a kid, what it did for me was it allowed me to understand that I have permission to explore things, and I always felt like that with him, that he didn't always understand my choices, and there were definitely things that he would be like they always deny this, but my parents, when I was playing sports before I joined the poetry or club, and I couldn't do poetry and sports at least the sport that I was playing. And so I remember telling them, like, I don't want to do the sport this year. I want to do spoken word. And they're like, you're not going to get a scholarship for spoken word, but you'll get a scholarship if you stick with the sports. Sure enough, I get a scholarship for spoken word, bro, And so like they didn't always understand it. And with that came like sometimes they didn't always support it, But I think that it was this challenge to them. Like, y'all taught me that I could explore options, and now I'm exploring options. Now it's up to you to trust my own judgment that I'm doing this thing because I know what's best for me, Now it's like, now I'm allowed to be multifaceted, like I give myself permission to be multifaceted, and I put the onus on the audience, bro. I put the onus on that could be frustrating because people desperately want to put you in that box. People want to be like, oh, it's not even just about being a rapper, but it's like how many times have I heard somebody be like, I play them a new song and they're like, oh, that person sound like this person. That's a box. That's a category that you instill on somebody within like 30 seconds of hearing their art. Like, this is a whole human being that makes an art, and you take 30 seconds to sum them up for yourself. You're only doing yourself a favor by doing that. By being like, oh, I put you in this place, in this umbrella with these other people. If you did that to me, you would miss out on so much of my catalog, because track 4 is going to make you think about this person, but track 5 is going to make you think about this person in this genre, right? And so I think what what it's not gonna stop me from doing that. I just made a song yesterday that was inspired by Billie Eilish's "Birds of a Feather" off her new joint. You know, bro, it's like it's a pop song, but like I can make pop music. You know, like I can do that. And then a couple days, a couple days before that, I was spitting a freestyle in front of a group of students. You know, like just a 16-bar verse. And so I don't know, when it comes to playing that part and not playing that part, I I think it's taken me longer to get people's attention because I think it's been like people have been like, I don't know where to put Rich, like is he but now for whatever reason it's clicking. Now people are like, we get, you do that and that. Okay, now we get we gotta widen the scope when we talk about you or when we think about you or when we think about the spaces that you could occupy. You can rock a whole show, a damn near sold out show at the Metro, and then go do the TV show, and then go do the open mic, and then go make a Billie Eilish song. Like what? Like that's what I can do, and so I think like I want people to respect me for that.
And I think even taking that further than just being an artist, right? You said, if you take this track and you place me in this box, you're going to miss out on my whole catalog. But take that a step further. Think about it as being a person, right? You meet somebody and 30 seconds in, you're like, oh, damn, they're fucking arrogant. Like, I fucking hate their attitude. You box them in within that first 30 seconds. You don't want to get to know them at all. You're like, all right, fuck that. Like, I'm good. But you're missing out on the complete whole person. They could have a great heart, right? They could be very generous, but maybe they just think about themselves a little too highly. And sometimes that's not a bad thing because if they think about themselves highly, maybe they'll think about you highly too. You know what I'm saying? And that's not to, I don't think I'm arrogant. I really in my opinion, I don't think that, right? So I'm not going to sit here and defend arrogancy, but you know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, you're missing out on complete people because you're so willing to box them in and judge them just based off the first 30 seconds to a minute of an interaction.
We just mentioned that balloon popping show. That's all that show is like is people judging you within like somebody take a breath. And this one dude came out, dressed well, and he was like, they're like, what do you like to do in your spare time? He's like, play video games. Pop, 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 pop. All these women started popping it, and then he started talking about things beyond video games, and some of the women were like, damn, I wish I didn't pop my balloon. And that's a perfect metaphor for what we're talking about. Like people want to jump so quickly to how quick can I be to put you in an easier place in my brain as opposed to let me figure out who this person is, and I'm gonna need this person been around for 24 years. I'm gonna need longer than 30 seconds to figure out who they are.
And I'm not gonna lie, I definitely feel that with doing a podcast. You go up to somebody, you tell them, oh, I got a podcast. What has Twitter done to people who host podcasts?
Yeah.
TikTok, all these places, it fucks it up because I do a podcast. Oh, you just like to talk. Oh, you just like to bash on people, bro. That's not even what I do for real. You know what I'm saying? I open up conversations. I'm not here for the negative energy. Fuck all that.
Yeah.
Going back to that multifaceted aspect, why didn't you ever just choose one lane, build on that, and then come back to everything else? Why do it all at once?
I don't even feel like I did everything at once. I feel like I spent time being an educator. I spent time in college. I spent time crafting, like being the rapper and coming out with like mixtapes and my earlier projects were more rap centric, but that Nimbus project in 2015, the first song on there is called Nimbus, and in it I say I want to stop rapping now, I want to make songs now. And I think from the jump, that was the first project that I put out as Rich Robbins, right? And I think from that first song was this thesis for myself of like, I don't want to just do this one thing, y'all. Like I want to compose pieces of art for y'all. And I just I can't, even within a song, bro, like I can't do one vibe, bro. Like, like even within even a verse itself, like if the first 8 bars are this cadence, I got to switch it up for the next 8 bars. There's just something about I think it's understanding people's attention span, but then I think it's also the energy, I'm not trying to sound hippie and nothing like that, but like the energy of like the universe for real is like always fluctuating. And so if like, who am I to make that linear? Who am I to like to like stifle the universe's movement? And so if I'm stifling my own movement, I am one with the universe. Like the universe is awesome, and so am I. So like, why would I stop myself from exploring all the different avenues that I know I can do, or not even know I can do, but want to do? I want to make movies, like I want to be on some Donald Glover shit. Like I want to do all of these things. And I know that I have the capacity and the training and the coachability to do everything to my maximum. That's one thing my pops taught me to do, is like, he instilled in me, put 100% effort in everything that you do. As a kid, that shit scarred me, because as a kid, it was like I couldn't do anything good enough for him, it seemed like. As an adult, I'm like, I get what you were trying to do. You were just trying to make me make sure that I'm pushing myself every time I go out to do something. And every time I walk off a stage, every time I walk off a set, every time I leave the open mic, I'm like, I put my best foot forward. And if it didn't turn out its best, it wasn't because of something I did. It was just out of my control.
So, what boxes did you find yourself automatically placed into?
I did the poetry early on, and so it was like, oh, he's a poet. He kind of dabbles in like the rhyming sometimes, but he's a poet though. And then when I started rapping, it was like, I think there was even boxes of just like, like, I don't like, I'm not from the streets, and so it's like, I think some of it was like, are you putting on a facade to do this type of thing? And so it was like, oh, like, yeah, he raps, but I felt like the box was like, but you gotta like do the nice rap. You gotta do like the Will Smith, type of thing. And even Chance to a certain extent too, right? Um, and then I don't know if there's a box now. I feel like there is still, because I think that there are sometimes like, even folks that I want to collaborate with, like I think sometimes I hate reaching out to people through DMs to collaborate with them, because they miss the whole like intent and the context behind what I'm creating. When people are in the studio, they see the whole vision, and then they're more likely to do it. But I definitely have like set records over to people, and they be like, oh, this isn't like, I feel like it's just kind of like out that it's not what they're expecting, like some people expect me to be spitting bars, and on that I might be singing, and then they're like, oh, I don't know if this is for. So I don't know if there's boxes now. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I don't really pay attention to them anymore. I just like, I'm at a point in my life where I'm just like, y'all, I know what I have to offer at every space, so.
Well, I'm not even thinking about the boxes that there currently are, but growing up, right?
In high school, I played football, but I was always small, right? And so I think that there was like almost like a weak box, like I wasn't as masculine as like some of the boys that were like bigger. Then there was I was soft spoken, and so like, there's like a toughness element or a lack of toughness element that comes with that, right? And then I was also like, I was pretty smart in school, and so I think that there was this box of like, like you're that academic kind of like, like he's like the cute, like, quiet kid in the class type of thing. Um, and even to an extent too, like I was raised in a church, and so I think that there was also this box of like, oh, like you must be like just like good, like you. So, and not that I wasn't, but it was like again, like there's just so many different sides to me that like I'm also not from Chicago. I grew up in Philly. Like I was born here, but then moved to Philly and then moved back. And so there's just like I feel like I'm biracial too. So I've spent most of my life just like teetering between these like, we don't know where to place bro. Like I don't know if it's like some Avatar shit or if it's just like some like they're just like you can't do it. Your people have tried to do it, and then I hear about the box, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna step out of that box then, and show you that like that didn't work. So like, what other box you want to put me in?
How do you feel like those boxes had shaped the way that you viewed yourself, though?
I saw myself being influenced by those boxes in like my dating life. Like I wasn't that confident of a young dater. I didn't date a lot, and part of it was because I was like in this religious household. The other part of it was because I kind of believe those boxes of like I'm like scrawny and like soft spoken and like I'm not as good as like the athletes or like I'm not as good as like the tall kids, you know, or the tall boys. And so that definitely hit my confidence, but I don't think I'll let it get to me like for that long, you know, because like once I started doing spoken word and poetry, like that put me in front of my entire class multiple times performing my own pieces as like a 15, 16, 17-year old, you know. I think I quickly learned not all everybody can do this, you know. And so yeah, you know, those boxes held me down for a little bit. I think when
As a teenager, I don't feel like those boxes, I never fit into any of those boxes either, right? And so I never identified myself with any of it. Like people would say I was smart, but to me, I was just a hard worker, or I found a way to get around, you know, having to do the work extra hard. So I had good grades. I had A's and B's. That was my thing. I didn't play sports, but you know, there's always that middle ground, right? You're not popular, but you're not popular.
that's where I was, yeah.
So there's that middle ground, and when you have that middle ground, you don't fit into any of those boxes. So you're like, okay, well, it is what it is. And to, you know, some people, they strive so hard again for that validation. They strive so hard for that fulfillment from others. To me, I always enjoyed the idea of being what people didn't expect.
Yeah, yeah. You said it better than me, yeah.
So like even with my parents, right? I was a good kid, but I would still go out and do hood rat shit with my friends, right? I
Right.
just want to do hood rat shit with my friends. In school, people would think, "Oh, you're not smart. You don't got good grades. You're a stoner." Bro, I didn't even smoke weed in high school, bro. And I had good grades, so I think that constantly being told certain things as I was growing up, you know, in elementary school, carried over to high school, I was like, "Oh, well, I'm not what you expect, and that's okay with me."
That's a good point, bro. Yeah.
Now, I think that the struggle is coming back around now that I'm 24. I'm over here like, you know, there's these expectations that people put on you, right? Just like I was telling you in the message, there's these societal norms and these expectations that once you hit 24, 25, you have to be at certain points in life. You have to have a crib. If you don't have a crib, you have to have your own condo or whatever it may be, starting a family, long-term relationship, shit like that, right? So now I'm kind of like, if I don't have that, am I behind in life? Which is so weird because, you know, when you're 21, it's okay to feel lost. At 24, I don't know if it's okay to feel lost no more. And that lost feeling has only come up recently because of different changes that have gone on in my life.
Yes, it is okay to feel lost at 24. It's okay to feel lost at 44, bro. Like you will continue to discover yourself and rediscover yourself, and I think that it puts you in this endless loop of feeling lost and feeling found, you know. And I think that that's just a part of it. That's a part of what we do as human beings and as in life, you know. I again, bro, we talked about this earlier, but it's there or actually no, we didn't talk about this earlier. I was talking about this in therapy, is that there is no one size fits all with when it comes to, in that context, it was coming to relationships, right? Like there's no one size fit all when it comes to the dynamic of like, you know, the role that two people play in a relationship, right? Like me and my partner might have a totally different set of responsibilities and roles that we play than you and your partner type of thing, right? But it works for both couples type shit, right? And I think that definitely applies to the rest of life too. I know some homeowners, they owned a home at 20, 22 years old. I know other people that own, like they didn't buy their first home until 50 and then they bought 3 homes, you know? And that person that owned a home at 21, like ended up having to sell it, you know? So it's all perspective. And I think it's really like where you end up. That's really it, you know? When it's all said and done, were you proud of what you did, you know, and not comparing it to anybody else? Like if you were just in a silo by yourself, are you proud of what you did? You know, it's when the comparison leaks in that we start doubting like what we've accomplished, you know.
What do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, and it absolutely is.
You know, I think when it comes to relationships, I think a big part of certain issues stem from one person, male or female or whatever, right? One of the parties sees something on social media, but social media is not fucking real. And like you said, there's no one size fits all, but there's this idealistic version, there's this romanticized version of what a relationship has to be that one party starts to believe it. And once again, social media is not fucking real. Like, you can be going through it. People fight every single day, but because they made a TikTok, they're in love.
And that applies to, somebody might just post their keys to the new crib that they purchased, and they might be in like thousands of dollars of debt. Like who knows? The point is like, who knows? And so it's like, don't worry about what somebody else got on their plate. Like one of my favorite J. Cole lines is like what you eat don't make me shit, and who you fuck don't make me come. Like, what you do with your life doesn't affect what I do with my life. I'm proud of you for what you've accomplished. You might have to give me some insight on how you got there so I could get there. But there's no like love. There's no hit to my ego if I gotta ask, like, oh yo, how did you do that? Because I'm trying to do that. That's what we hear. That's what community is for. Is for that. Is setting each other up. I can't do it all by myself. That's why I lean on community so much. And I would encourage other people to do that too. Like, don't stop acting like you got the shit all figured out. That's one thing. Like, people will look at my Instagram and be like, oh, I thought like you had it all figured out. I thought you had. No, bro, like that. I do not, man. Like, I post my accomplishments because like that's what I just, not even just accomplishments, but I really just post the work that I'm proud of, and I save all of the training and stuff like for myself, so that like to be tapped in and be present with that, yeah. So, bro, be lost, like, and enjoy being lost too, man. Once you find an answer, you beat the game. Like, what you're not like, what do you do? What do you do when you beat a game? Like, you stop playing it. You either stop playing it or you're just like, oh, you just run around aimlessly. Like, I don't want to beat the game yet.
I think what it is that as you get older, you find this comfort in that stability, right? And that stability comes from what these societal norms are. Buying a crib, that's stability. Not really, because at the end of the day, some shit goes wrong. Who has to take care of that now?
Yeah.
You.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, they don't talk about that.
Idealistically, what's romanticized as the answer to life, what's romanticized as stability is having a house, getting married, all that shit, right? And fuck, 6 months ago, to me, I wasn't even thinking about that. So the idea that I'm like, bro, like, that's not even what I really want. But what I want is just to feel that comfort and that safety, right? Because being an artist can be very uneasy. You never know what's going to perform well. You never know who's going to receive what well. You never know how somebody's going to react when you sit down with them. Planning shit, you got to plan all this shit. There's just a lot of energy that goes into something that sometimes feels like it's unappreciated, but at the same time, you're working with people and they try to set their standard and their restrictions on you, and it's like, bro, like, I'm allowing you to come here, and I appreciate everybody that comes here, but this isn't you tell me what we're gonna do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and standing firm in that is hard to do.
Again, going back to those boxes, those are securities. That home, that lifestyle, it's a security. You like to live outside of those boxes. Why is it so easy for you to do that?
I wouldn't even call it easy, but I think it is. I've hit kind of a flow state with it now because I have the support of my community, and that community is family. I have the support of my family now with this, and that's my tribe. Though that's like, at the end of the day, there's a zombie apocalypse. That's who I'm rolling with, is my family. And so to have their support, like to have my sister front row at Metro singing all the words, and my mom and dad right behind her, like that to me is a flex, because those are the people that love me. And if they love what I do, I don't really need much else. I'm okay with, like, that is enough for me. I often think about what's enough. And I think one thing that I'm working on right now is being okay with like what I've done, like I say like you know, if I die, I'm like proud of my legacy and stuff, and I am. But on a day to day basis, if you ask my girl, you ask really anybody that knows me and has collaborated with me, I'm not satisfied with anything. Like I'm the type of person that's like, cool, we just did that, we just did Metro. What's the next? We got to have the next thing on the schedule though, you know, and people have had to really like stop me. My manager, my girl, like have had to stop me and be like, yo, just relish in this, like what you've done and what you've accomplished. And so for me, it's not easy to live outside of them, but because I have the support of the people that love me, I'm able to continue to do it. And this goes back to telling people what you want to do, because I've told so many people this is what I want to do. They really hold me to it, and they push me toward it, you know. And so the days where I'm like, I actually just want to be in a box right now, you know, like they're like, nah, bro, like you got work to do because you told us that this is what you want, you know. And so that's good. People that love me know where I'm trying to go, and they can help get me there when I can't get myself there.
Do you think another factor to being okay being outside those boxes is the lack of autonomy you had growing up?
It's that therapist talk again. Maybe, bro. I don't know if I've ever pieced that together, that being limited as a kid is kind of, now I'm like overcompensating for it almost, you know, like I'm gonna do all of these things because I couldn't do them. I think in a sense, yeah, in a sense, I've always just had a big imagination too, and so like I still collect Marvel action figures. You know, I got them all over my studio and stuff. You know, I got like a katana hanging above the studio. That's my shotgun above the fireplace. You know, if anybody comes in the crib, I'm unsheathing that motherfucker. You know, like I've always just like loved like the fantasy elements of things, and so I think more so than, you know, like kind of, I was talking to the mind about this actually, about like, you know, having your kid self be really proud of your adult self. And I think that's really what I do it for. So yes, in a sense, right, that I do it for the kid that couldn't do it, right? But then also like it just feeds and fuels my imagination to just be like, oh, we want to like, let's do a TV show. Let's figure out how we do it and then do it, you know? One thing I will say is I think that people that know me and have worked with me know that I'm the type of person that will dream up something and then get that shit done.
You know, I asked that because for me growing up, it was the same thing as you. I didn't grow up in church, but the fact that this is what it was expected of me in school. Okay, you do that, and kind of your life was kind of mapped out up until you finished college.
Right. Yeah. Basically.
And then it's like, what do you do after that? And you got to figure it out on your own, right? So then for you were able to find arts early on. I didn't start this until probably my last semester of college. So it was already one of those things where it's like, okay, now that I have the freedom to pursue whatever I want to pursue, I did what my parents said. I finished school. I did it faster than I was supposed to. So I was like, all right, cool. Like, it is what it is. I'm going to go do this. So that's why I asked you, like, that autonomy. I understand, like, oh, I was so limited at this time. Now I'm going to go do everything.
Yeah.
And that's literally what you did.
Yeah.
Became a rapper, became a TV show host.
Bro.
Whatever you wanted to do.
My parents don't got a musical bone in their body, bro. Like, this is like, talk about not being in a box. Like, nobody in my immediate family does what I do. You know, it was never on anybody's radar to do this. So it's not like I don't come from musicians. I don't come from like, nobody knows how to play an instrument in my family. You know, like my brother played the clarinet, but like that, you know, that was like a school thing, you know? So it definitely like, it was like a not even a reinventing. There was an inventing of the wheel when it came to this shit, you know? But it was like, I don't know. Maybe it was all the anime that I consumed as a kid, but I was like, anything is possible, bro. And like, this is fun too, you know. Like above all else, I have a blast doing this shit. You know, it can get like, you know, it's exhausting and there's a grind to it, but I never feel that feeling of like my soul is exhausted. You know, like that 9 to 5 grind that I know some people have compromised for that like 401k type, you know, maybe that'll come in handy. I don't know. But like, it's just like, I was more of the lines of like, I think I could plan for the future and live for the present too. And so yeah, that's what we're gonna do. You know, like people literally like not to even get morbid, but people die unexpectedly. People wake up and they don't go to sleep that day, you know, and they don't wake up the next day. What the fuck do I look like compromising my shit, my life for when I'm 60, bro? Like I might not make it to 40, you know? So I gotta like I'm not gonna blow it all now, but I'm gonna plan for the future and I'm gonna live in the present and then we rocking it.
And we'll figure it out
Yeah,
later.
we gonna figure this shit out. Like, come on.
So I want to touch on your parents a little bit, right? Because they had created that space they created that route for you. How did the pressures that your parents created impact you both negatively and positively?
I just felt like nothing was ever good enough. And I think that's why today I feel like nothing is ever good enough because I'm like, there can always be something that more that could have been done, you know? And like, and I be getting on myself like, is it my own limitations why that particular thing couldn't get done, you know? Or like, is it my fault that things couldn't be the fullest potential that they could have been. So I think that that's how that kind of backfires that very high bar, that very high standard, and to be that all the time. You know, have definitely been on record as saying that like you know I come home with all A's and a B, and my pops is like, "What's up with the B?" You know, like that is definitely like a thing that that was a part of my childhood. You know, and it's just a high expectation, especially being a black boy, you know, a brown boy. It's like that high academic expectation. I'm looking at my peers and I'm or like my contemporaries and being like that. I don't see their parents being on them about this shit, you know, and like why does my dad have to be on me about this? But it was this double edged sword, right? It's just like has this negative. The good about it is that I have this work ethic that I feel like my peers don't have. Um, so I think that I guess that answers the good. It's like yeah, bro. I not even I'm not even going to disclaim it. I think I'm one of the hardest working people that I know. And I stand on that, you know. I don't let it consume me, but I know how to like officially get things done, and then also have the end of the day to smoke, watch TV, and watch some House of Dragon, you know.
That's one of those things that once you take that step back, you'll not that you don't notice it now, but you'll realize like, damn, I really was doing a lot. That's how I feel right now, right? We took the step back for a couple weeks. We didn't do the live for a little bit. I was like, damn, I was doing the live. I was recording. I was editing. I was doing everything. And I didn't realize it until I took that step back and I came back and I'm getting back in the rhythm. I'm like, oh, fuck. I was always, okay, what can I do more? What can I do more? How do I get to do more? And who's going to let me do that more?
Yeah.
And now that I'm getting back into it, I'm like, fuck, like, I don't even think I was able to do more. I think I just thought I needed to do more.
I don't know why I just started thinking about this now, but we were on the topic of boxes and stuff, and so when we announced the Metro show, there was a lot of people that kind of came out of the woodworks of like, you know, just kind of being like, oh, like we want to like work with you or like, you know, whatever. And so there was this blogger. I wouldn't even call him a blogger. I guess I call him a tastemaker of Chicago. You know, that reached out to one of my friends and was like, I've been asleep on Rich. Can you put me on to Rich? Like, what should I be looking out for? So they hit me up and they were like, what do you want me to send to this person? And I was like, I hate that. I hate I have this little snapshot to prove to you what I am because I can't do it in one song. I can't do it in 3 songs. Like you're going to have to do your homework on me as opposed to like me telling you what to listen to, you know? And maybe that's a detriment. I think everybody should have like a 2-minute elevator or like, you know, their elevator pitch, you know, ready to go. But I just knew like, I'm like, I would just love for give that person my number. Have that person call me and let's talk. And that will give them an idea of who I am. But if you just play them this one song, they're gonna box me. You know, if you give them this other song, they're gonna put me in 2 boxes now. You know, but if they talk to me, then it's like, oh, I get the scope of who that person is. You know, that person never called me. You know, and I hope one day we do have a conversation. But you know, I I was like, I sent them stuff, and then I was like, I know I'm not gonna hear from this person.
Going back to these pressures, were these pressures that you realized had affected you after or before therapy?
Definitely after therapy. I realized a lot of things after therapy. The pressures, they manifested themselves into like weird actions, you know, actions that were hurtful toward myself or toward people, my relationships, you know. So it wasn't until therapy, and I've been really fortunate to have several male role models in my life that I can bounce ideas off of, and I can like come to with humility and be like, "Hey, I messed up and I don't know what to do," and they'll hear me out and they'll give me advice, you know. And so a combination of those couple men, you know, that I could lean on, and therapy also, that pointed out a lot.
What do you think was the most important thing it pointed out to you?
Like the root of like where my anger comes from, man. Like it's all soft and tender, but like I got there's like a whole other side that a lot of people don't get to see, that is like that is definitely a product of like like a generational thing that has run through my family, on both sides in a lot of ways. My parents are very much survivors of their environment, you know, and so like when they're raising a child, and their parents are survivors of their own, you know, places. And so when they're all raising kids, like they're raising kids in a time where therapy and mental health and these things are not the prominent things to talk about, you know. And so I'm raised by that, and so like I think therapy really pointed out like how that has really taken root in me, and the ways that I can work with it. There's some of those things that I don't want to get rid of, you know, like some of those things have protected me, my life, have saved my life, like being able to peep shit around, and also being able to just like get shit done, you know, on multiple different ways, you know. So I wouldn't but now I work with it. And now I don't see it as the enemy. I'm just like, oh, like that, the dark side and the light, like the force, you know, like there's the light side and the dark side. They need each other. One is not better than the other one. It's balance at the end of the day.
What is it you found yourself being so angry about?
Hypocrisy really fucking bothers me, bro. Like when somebody wants something or wants to be treated a particular way, but does not have the capacity or the tools to treat other people that way, I can't stand that shit.
Throw your head through a wall.
Yeah, bro, because it doesn't make sense to me. It's like it's not consistent, you know. And so I like that irritates me. But I think it's that, and I think it's like, nah, that's it. That's really what'll piss me off. And then also people that just like act a lot harder than they are, just like tougher than they are. You know, it's like that's particularly towards men. Is like, you know, I at this point I've like talked to so many men and heard so many different stories that like when somebody's putting on a facade, I'm just like, bro, we ain't got time for this, man. Like talk to me like a grown ass nigga, like just like let's just not, we don't gotta talk, you know. Like I just don't have time for that.
That's what I talk about when it comes down to that energy part, right? Some people, like, we just can't give our energy to everybody. And as creatives, that's our job. We're supposed to network. We're supposed to create relationships. But it's like, bro, I've created I wouldn't say 1,000, but I've created hundreds of relationships. And sometimes I only see these people one time, or they want something, and then that's the only time I talk to them. I'm like, bro, like, I'm gonna prioritize the people that I fuck with and the people that I know will say something. Like, we started to build a relationship because we kept seeing each other at different events. We finally sat down. Matt, same thing. You know, he had reached out prior. It never came to fruition. I kept seeing him. I'm like, all right, bro, let's make it happen. And that's just based off of who you guys are and what you guys have done and what you guys have proven to, you know, give to the community.
Yeah.
Last question. You know, in a previous interview, you mentioned that you've learned that you don't have to hold on to everything. You don't have to hold on to all the hurt that you've endured. What did you find yourself struggling to let go of?
I think it's a lot of family stuff that I was holding on to, that some of it was forgiveness from my end, but I think another part of it was waiting for the people that hurt me to own up to that. And that's totally out of my control. You know, like that's that person's journey and those people's journey. And if they never come to that revelation, I gotta be able to push on forward, you know, with or without them. But I was holding on to some of those pains. I was also holding on to things that I've done to people that I didn't forgive myself for. And you know, like kind of dark sides of myself that I wanted to either tuck away or I just like didn't want to come to the light in any capacity. And um I think like just showing myself grace, like, bro, that set me free, man. Like that set me free. And that forgiving myself allowed me to forgive a lot of people in my life that have hurt me in some way. So yeah, man, I would say those, and then also like people doubting me, bro. Like on some like again, also anime underdog shit. Like I feel like people doubted me for a long time, and or it maybe even it wasn't even doubt. It just like wasn't even like I wasn't even on the radar. You know, like I wasn't. They didn't even give me the time of day at all for whatever reason. Maybe it was whatever box they had put me in, wrote me off, and then tucked me away. At this point, it's like it is pretty hard to ignore the comeback, you know, from whatever box they had put me in, you know. And so I think it was just like is as like as weird as it sounds, I think it's just kind of like forgiving people that maybe like they didn't mean to put me in that box, but like, you know, just like forgiving like the humanity of like, oh, I understand how our brains work. I understand that I do it too, you know, like I find an artist, like I was thinking earlier today about Frank Ocean. Like I think Blonde is a fantastic album. I'm gonna always be Team Channel Orange because Channel Orange came out during a very specific time in my life, and Blonde didn't. You know, and I love Blonde, bro. Like Frank Ocean is one of my favorite artists, but I have to, as an audience member, I can't expect Frank to be Channel Orange Frank. He is evolving just like I'm evolving. And if coming back to the hypocrisy, right? I can't be like, have grace for my evolution and then not have grace for somebody else's evolution, even if they're an artist, right? Especially if they're an artist, because we are always evolving. So
The fact that you got to understand that I'm not going to be the same person I was yesterday. I'm not going to be the same person I was a year ago. And as we continue to grow, you know, sometimes we miss those old parts of ourselves, but we're like, it is what it is. We've grown past that. And now everyday life, all these new experiences have shaped us into the person that we've become. And damn, that forgiveness part though.
it's one of the most powerful things you could do is forgive somebody, because that really is like the ultimate sign of healing from something and closing the door on something in a healthy way is forgiving.
Especially like you said, those people that can't even offer you that apology. Being able to let go of that situation or that instance that happened when you never even got that proper closure. And I think that's the hardest part of forgiveness that you have to get through, or the hardest type of forgiveness you have to get through.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's one-sided closure, but you got to be comfortable with that.
I appreciate you coming on, bro. I appreciate the conversation. You got anything you want to plug?
My next performance is Wicker Park Fest, July 27th, 2 p.m. Very excited about that. My first time at Wicker Park Fest. Definitely not going to be my last time. Jamila Woods is headlining that same day, that same night. Yeah, so that's the only thing. July 27th, Wicker Park Fest. Pop out for that.
I'm gonna put you in a box right now. You look like a Wicker Park ass dude.
Hey, I'm Logan Square. I'm close to it.
Make sure you guys go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you guys go ahead, check out Rich Robbins, Soft and Tender series, Sad Boys for Real. Peace out.
This is Sad Boy Radio.